the record button. All right. Welcome, everybody. We're glad you're back. Thank you for coming back. I love it. I love it. This is like one of the highlights of my week is to hang out with all of you. So thank you for joining us today. Yay. I did put in the chat box the questions that I had sent out via email, and there was one other one that I found in the chat that I pulled in after I sent out the emails. But those are potential questions for us to talk about. But again, it's all about you and what you need most out of our time together today. So we definitely want you guys to be taking the lead. The other thing I wanted to tell you is I had asked you at the last of our meeting, our time last week, whether or not we wanted to keep going into May. And the people that chatted back said yes. And so I did have that. And then I realized that in Zoom, if I extended the number of sessions before we met today, we would not have to ask people to re-register. So I'm still trying to figure out Zoom too. So I did extend it. So hopefully you all got an email that said this has been extended for another 4 weeks and you accepted it. And so now you've got the May meetings. You have autonomy. You don't want to come. You don't have to come. You don't have to accept it. But I did go ahead and extend it. So I just wanted to let you guys know that I just did that on the off chance that people will want to come back next week. So we'll see how that goes. So I see people chatting away. I love it. Lisa, thank you. Kaven, Evie, very good. So how are things going this week? Anybody have any burning questions or needs today that we want to make sure that we talk about? Yes, go Jenny. I didn't see you. Hi, Jenny.
Guys. Hey, everybody. So this week I've really been thinking a lot about the changes that I've been seeing in my elders, and it's a lot. I see it in their faces, and I think the thing that really struck me this week was I think what I'm seeing is I'm seeing them become just the recipients of care and not the givers. And I was really struck by the Facebook Live with Emmy and her analogy about how during disaster we turn and look backwards, and when you have a longer life to look backwards at, you bring more to the table. And so I've been working with my elders this week on ways that they can give back. They have the most to give back. So anyone that has ideas around that would be amazing. We last night they made a bunch of yard signs, and they asked me to go and write on the cars of the staff of a different community that's really struggling with COVID right now. So I was happy to be their hands and feet on that, but just looking for other ideas of ways that my elders can make a meaningful contribution.
Wow.
Jenny.
Thank you for your observation. Thank you for sharing that. Carmen, go ahead.
Hey, Jenny. I have an idea. Like you just said, elders have so much to give looking back. And something I've been doing for years is asking elders for their wisdom. And so we pose a question of the day when we go once a month. But we've gone for like 12 years and I have a wisdom book. And what I think we could all be doing is asking for wisdom. Certainly, how to handle hard times is the obvious one, but we could be getting them talking about other things. Like I imagine chapters on advice for marriage, advice for raising kids, advice for raising teenagers, right? Advice for baking, cooking, having a big house, a little house, being alone, and perhaps it would give people something different to think about, talk about. I would encourage caregivers to have a different topic every time. Well, not every time, I don't mean like a rule, but maybe empower caregivers, the only people interacting, to maybe think and talk and ask about different things than what's happening, because maybe we're getting tired of talking about this too, So just some ideas.
Thank you, Carmen. That's awesome. One thing we did this week to kind of start that conversation with caregivers is we made up like a dozen little signs that said, elders teach me, and different things, right? They teach me that laughter is great medicine. They teach me the importance of family, whatever it is. And then we had caregivers go, they had to pick one and then go and tell the person who taught them that why they learned that lesson from them and photograph them together. And that was a kind of a cool way to, switch the thinking for caregivers as to like what that contribution is.
Now, Jenny, do you mean that they're thinking of elders they work with or elders in general?
For this, it was elders they work with.
Okay.
I think sometimes it's easy to forget that because I work at a memory care community, and we have people, most of our people are at the very the end of their dementia journey. And so, you know, what have people taught you that maybe have not ever spoken a word to you?
Oh, love it.
Yeah. Jenny, this one may be not as applicable with the elders that you work with, but if people haven't seen it, Life Bio has a wonderful resource that they've put up now that's it's actually in our ABCs, but it's also obviously on their website. It's a Zoom storytelling and conversation and laughs that they're sponsoring every Thursday that is specially designed for residents of retirement communities and nursing homes for them to meet via Zoom. So that sounds like a really cool platform for elders to be able to interact with other elders.
Joan, I wonder, I've been kind of brainstorming some ideas for Alternative Mother's Day, and I wonder, right, it's tough, but I wonder if something like that, I had been thinking about maybe StoryCorps, like the elders who do have an audible voice to be able to tell and record their story. If not, then a family to record a memory about their mother, like kind of a back and forth. But Life Bio might be a great way to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great to work out to. And Jenny, that makes me think, I'm just going to throw this in there. This is a blatant plug, but if you didn't see the article, I know Imelda, you did because you wrote a beautiful comment on it. We had a wonderful story that was written by a woman named Verna Carvey, who lives in a care community in the Denver area and is just a remarkable woman. And she wrote what this feels like from the perspective of an elder living in a senior living community. She's in independent living, but it's a beautiful story and a wonderful example of the wisdom that is out there.
Jenny, this is Lisa. If I could just piggyback on what Carmen and Joan are talking about, one thing that I love to do with the elders that I've worked with and also with other care partners is to just in the moment be very tuned in to what you're receiving from the person that you're with, and in that moment to really try to express your gratitude for that. So an example, and with the students that I work with as well at the Gerontology Institute, for example, even somebody who is living with pretty advanced dementia and who may not be very verbal might be giving us the gift of their peacefulness, and to be able to say to them, you know, I always feel so much more calm when I'm with you. Thank you for that gift. And to be able to express to the person that is something that sometimes elders are so surprised because they're not used to being thanked for a gift that they've given us. And it's a very powerful gift to them to be thanked for something that they're giving us. And I think if we make that a habit, or just to say, you know, I always just get so much from the time that we spend together. Thank you for the gift of you. Thank you for the gift of your jokes. You always make me laugh. Your smile is such a gift in my day. It just always brightens up my day. Any little thing that comes up in the moment is important too. I think all the other things we're talking about are bigger circles that we can tap into, but not to forget in the moment how to express our gratitude. Just a thought.
Jenny, also, I mean, and this goes for everyone, we can't assume that because they're not speaking, that they have no ability to speak. And using validation techniques are very, very important. I can't tell you how many people had no verbal skills, no ability to communicate, but put in the right environment, looking at them, you know, using the premise of validation, it's amazing. They start talking again. So, you have to create the environment. Give them that opportunity. Don't make the assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, Evie, something that you taught me along the way, and I think we've all been taught in different trainings, is communication is more about our body language than our verbal. And to sit in a space and to be so in tune to recognize somebody's body language and how they're expressing themselves is pretty magical.
And Hope, you sent Hope sent me some materials that I'll send out. Thank you very much, Hope, via email. So I'll send them out with the follow-up, but I don't know if you want to say anything about what you just sent.
Sure. We actually are utilizing similar questions that you all have proposed presently, and we're creating kind of a toolkit for National Nursing Home Week for all of our communities, so that you know, that the time is of the essence, and many of our homes don't have the opportunity to sit back and be creative. So we've come together at the home office with all these tools that are basically what we're all talking about right now here. And we came across this COVID-19 time capsule, believe it or not, at Office Depot just 2 days ago. They're passing it out to all these kiddos, and it has some incredible questions. So we're currently adapting that to just have this dialogue with with individuals living in the communities, as well as the employees that are serving them. And then there's 2 prayers in there that we're using in one-on-ones to sit with and share in a private, intimate setting and get feedback on. So I just shared those 4 with you.
Very nice. Thank you. Okay, so Kathy Lieblich put a thing about in the moment, and Karen Stobie, and she has some great ideas. So you can, her email address is in the chat box. Tirza, I definitely want to get to your question. I just want to make sure. Lisa also says Naomi File and Gladys Wilson on YouTube for a beautiful example of validation approach with an elder who appears to be nonverbal. Awesome. Awesome. And kind of on the same line, I'm going to divert just a little bit because Tirsa's got a really good question here. Do we have any thoughts about using body language with the limitations of the masks that we're wearing? And I did have somebody email me this week, and they said they have a gentleman living with dementia, and he's constantly putting his hands up and telling people where his wallet is because everybody approaching him has a mask on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the stress that must be causing for that elder. And so, yeah, how can we be more expressive with our body language in some ways that might help with the communication? Any ideas?
Well, in that case of the man putting his hands up, I thought right away of writing a note. I am your care partner. I'm here to help. And the mask is for keep you safe or something, and leave it there so that they could see it and remember from time to time. One approach.
Yep.
I wanted to share a news report I heard just yesterday about body language, and it was on NPR, and they said that communication it was some ridiculous statistic, like 70 to 80% of what we communicate is through body language. And they said that in this time of the masks and also all this digital communication, we're missing the body language. And so they said, stand up, and like when you're on Zoom, stand up and show your body a little bit more, because we're missing the majority of how we communicate to each other. So it really reinforces it. I do some grocery shopping for elders in my community that are homebound. And a part of the conversation is always like, before I get close, I have to pull down my mask and smile. I'm like, I have to smile. Like, I need to show you my face to like interact with you. I can't just interact with the mask. And I know I don't work inside a skilled nursing facility, and I know that must be extraordinarily limiting to have that barrier for the majority of the time. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Denise?
Yes, go Rain.
I don't know what your regulations are, but we've moved away from the face mask to the Perspex shields. And, you know, these can be washed and cleaned, and they don't really hide any part of your face, which really works beautifully in our care homes. I'm trying to send you a photograph, but I'm not being successful yet.
What did you call them, Rain? What did you call them?
They are Perspex shields, like, you know, someone who's doing welding.
I've seen those, yeah, full clear plastic
Yes,
shield.
you know, it's much easier to breathe. I find wearing a mask with multifocals is almost impossible. You know, if the virus doesn't get me, the bus is going to run me over because my glasses are steaming up. And, you know, whereas the shield gives you full facial expression, and they've been proven to be very, very protective.
We had
I see something on Facebook that you can actually make them at home. I ordered a hat.
Yeah.
It hasn't come yet, but you can take like a plastic sheet protector, and I'm going to find the link and I'm going to put it in the chat box, because there you can make your own. That's brilliant, Rain.
I've seen healthcare workers wearing them, but also with masks. So are they without the mask? Are they just as safe?
Apparently so.
That'd be great.
I think in nursing homes, they need to make sure they're using what they're, you know, and assisted living, what they're being expected to use. Because I agree, Kathy, you see them like in hospitals where they wear a mask and then they wear the face shield over it. But so I know everybody's following what they have to do. If they can use them, that's great. But
I think
have them,
people don't know about it. So maybe if one puts it out there, they could investigate it as an option. I just think, yeah, maybe a lot of people don't know that that is an option.
I know there are communities that they're using them, but even in nursing homes, are they using them over masks when they're working with people who are positive for the virus? So I know they're out there, and there's things that they're ordering in communities or trying to or making.
Yeah, so Jenny has a great idea. As always, she says some thin acrylic sheets, a visor, and a hot glue gun will do it for you. I agree. That's what I'm seeing that you pay $10 for as an ad when you're playing games and stuff on the pad. Now you know what I do in my evenings. And then Brad has some advice for you, Rain. He says, clean your glasses with shaving cream and it'll prevent them from fogging.
Thank you.
And I do have a thought that might not help this gentleman who's living with dementia and who's apparently having a pretty extreme reaction to the masks. But I did a blog about a week ago about the idea that a lot of people might be triggered by the masks because they've got some old trauma about medical environments. They've got a lot of people have issues with not being able to read the body language or not being able to see the face. And I think it's such an important conversation that we're having. And in the blog, I wrote about how important it is that we really talk to the folks that we're working with and ask them in environments where we know our care partners that we're working with, that we sit down with them and just ask the question, what's it like for you to see me wearing a mask? Or if that feels a little too direct, even to say, what's it like to see so many people around you wearing masks? And just open up that conversation. Because I can tell you as a therapist that not being able to read faces can be very frightening for a lot of folks, especially if they grew up in a family where being able to read a face might have been the difference between setting off a bully in the household or an abusive parent. And so I think it's just important that we have that conversation with people. We don't have to bring up the whole idea of trauma, but this is part of trauma-informed care. And that is that we are aware that people's access, as Kevin said, to the full range of our ability to communicate is being cut off with the masks. And I think just raising that question, and as I said, I wrote about it on my website. It's on my blog if you want to take a look. So.
Thank you, Lisa. And somebody put in the link to your blog, so that's in the chat box, you guys, and it'll again come out with the follow-up. But yeah, and I think that the masks are going to be here to stay for a while. I don't think they're going away anytime soon. So I think that it is something. And so I was watching somebody, and they'd drawn like a little face on. You know, they were having some fun with the masks and kind of like drawing on them and smiles and stuff. I see that in the thing as well. We had a guy in Omaha that has 3D printers. And so he was having his 3D printers work making those clear shields for the local hospital. So if you know somebody with a 3D printer, that might be another option to see if they'd be willing to donate some time and do that. I love the idea about pictures of themselves. We might try it. Tears is liking this. Finding that the entire team is starting to use their entire body more. We are in activities and we're pretty physical anyway, but we're having more awareness of that. The whole body needs to communicate. And I agree, you know, just standing there doesn't probably do the thing. So very cool. Something from Rain is in the chat box. You might want to check that out. And Evie found her link to the shields. So very good. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Great question, Tears. I hope that was helpful. That's a great question. So Jenny, you brought up the Mother's Day idea. So like Mother's Day is like 2 weeks away. So we made it through Easter. Here's the next big holiday. Anybody have any plans in the works for how to have a meaningful Mother's Day in the midst of all this craziness?
Hi,
Hi, Linda.
Hi, sorry, my phone rang just as I started to speak. We just started to have this conversation this morning on our leadership call, and because family members are already starting to ask, hey, I want to come visit mom on Mother's Day. And so we just started the discussion, but some of the things I'll just tell you that we threw out there was a Mother's Day parade, to where people are in their cars and we can have schedules to where they can come by and we can have their loved one, you know, outside, so it's safe distancing. But it's something that you guys just said, I forget who it was, I think would really add to that. And that is the motivation and having the adult children actually write something and show them something meaningful that they've taught them as well. What a special piece to that to add. And so I don't know, that's just, I got excited when I heard that, but that's just one thing that we're thinking of. And of course, having, you know, outside, we don't want to just have this go by with nothing.
Yeah.
And the same for the, you know, for the elder to be able to, you know, give back and do something fun for them as well. So when they do drive by, love ideas on what they could do.
So I have a really silly question, and you guys can all shoot me down, but if they physically distance themselves, can they still be in the same room at the same time? I know that you can't have visitors walk in the front door, but if the weather's nice, could they bring some lawn chairs or something, and mom could be out there and a couple people could, you know, her family could be sitting appropriately all distanced around mom and having a conversation? Couldn't that happen? I don't know.
Well, we were talking about that as well, and just trying to come up with ways that we can do it, because the amount of people that are going to want to come, and you know, we have 102 residents in one of our communities, so that's a lot of family members on that one day. So spreading it out over the weekend, having, you know, tents or something for families, different sections, and section it off. So, you know, we're trying, but it does make it a lot more difficult. But yes, I think it could work.
Yeah, I didn't think about the mass. You can't have all the masses, so it'd have to be like appointed times. And
exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of coordination.
Yes. Thank you, Linda. I didn't think about that. Oh, there we go. So Isabel's got a great thing. I think, Isabel, I don't know if you want to talk about this, because this is a really good idea you wrote about.
I'm a little afraid to, because I have a lot of little people here, but I was just thinking, you know, there's appreciation both ways. And I know even like my mom, or when my grandma was still alive, she would encourage me. And a lot of times, you know, if they're older, they're not, they're more sedentary, but they are watching and they're reflecting. And I think they're seeing things, and they can encourage, you know, their daughters or their nieces who are moms too. So that's a huge way that they can give back, I think, and it's meaningful both ways then.
Thank you. Oh, and I see Brad says, yeah, in Pennsylvania, they can't even have people on the grounds. And Star, I think you've said that too. On yours, you can't even have people on the ground. So that does make that idea a little tougher, but any other ideas for Mother's Day?
Well, Ashley did say they've been doing that for the last week. if you wanted to chime in, Ashley, about that, how that was working for you.
Probably help if I unmuted myself.
Ashley, do you want to unmute and tell us what you've been up to?
So our recreation, excuse me, our recreation team, in addition to setting up all of the Zoom meetings and Google Duo meetings, like with the family members, now that our weather is nicer and we have a fenced back courtyard, and it's like the bar fence, not the like slat fence. So they actually set up duct tape on the ground, 6 feet away from kind of either side of the fence, and set up chairs for the family members and set up times, like dates and times, like they scheduled everything, and took 2 residents at a time per cottage, and had them out, and their family members could come and actually see their loved ones, and everybody got some sunshine and socialization while still being able to physically distance. And everybody was like just raving about how happy they were, the families and our residents. And it really like boosted the morale of actually the whole cottage, because then those few residents that were able to see their families were in very high spirits. So it kind of lifted everybody up around them too.
Great point. Thank you. Oh, that's awesome. So the other thing that came into my mind about the Mother's Day, because I was kind of pondering this too, is like, could you do a big family tea party on Zoom or something like that, where like, you know, everybody would be in their space, but they'd all be there with their mom, and maybe even just do one for everybody, any resident that wanted to participate in any resident's family. And you could have, I mean, you can get really big licenses. I don't know if you have a Zoom account or anything, but you know, that might be another thing, is just say, we're gonna have tea time with all of our moms, and then people could be sharing memories or something. I see the Google Duo, Zooms, phone calls. Yep.
Yeah, so here at Denali Center, we've been exploring a few different ideas, and nothing's perfect yet, because we have to go through infection control and make sure that we're doing really things cautiously. But we're planning on having a kind of 2-day event where we're going to host Mother's Day tea. Usually it's a big event that happens in the activity room, but we're planning on spreading it out. We have 4 different neighborhoods, wings, that shoot off the main area. So we're having it probably at the ends of each neighborhood, where there's an emergency exit to go outside. And then our courtyard kind of butts into that. And so inviting families to come and visit kind of through the gate. And we were just exploring the idea of doing some temporary landscaping on the other side to get those chairs out there, because that's a great idea, and set up visiting times. But then also figuring out how to have Zoom at those meetings or at those parties to be 6 feet apart. And then our second day, we're working on planning a big parade. If we can get all of our mothers outside the building on the sidewalk out front, all 6 to 10 feet apart, and then have a parade in the afternoon with family members, and maybe get the community involved too. But we'll have to have a lot of rules going on. And get a lot of people involved in that. So we're kind of in the beginning process of all that right now, and we're going to see how far we can push it.
Very cool.
Hey, Denise, this is Jill. I just put this in the chat box, but Rain asked a really, really good question. Okay. And if that's okay, can we bring that up for people to talk about?
I want to make note, Brad put in some cool stuff. They've got golf carts, and so they've been decorating the golf carts and taking around, which is very cool. Yeah, so Rain, yes, go ahead, Rain.
Oh, yeah, you know, I see there's a lot of entertainment going on. I want to see whether elders are really getting more involved with the day-to-day work around the home. We have had, with a serious lockdown and quarantine, many of our care partners could not come to work. And especially in our Eden registered homes, I've seen elders who hardly ever engage, who come out and volunteer to help. And if you go onto our Facebook page, you'll see them working in the kitchen, helping to clean, helping other elders. And I think this is such an incredible opportunity to really explore the agency of our elders, and not just, I mean, yes, entertainment and these things are really important as well under difficult circumstances. But I think in a real Eden home, I want to see residents step up and step in to say, hey, yes, this is what I can offer. I'm not just a recipient of care, I'm a giver as well.
Rain, thank you. And for those of you who didn't, if you didn't get to watch the Facebook Live show we did with Emmy Kyoto from Ibasho, was that just this past Monday? I don't know what day it is. But Emmy, you know, her whole focus has been with Ibasho is the role of elders in society recovering from disasters. And she makes this whole point, and Jenny brought this up too, that, you know, are people just recipients of care? Are they victims? Or how do we work together as a community where everybody plays a role to make things better, which we all need, no matter what abilities we're living with and no matter how old we are. And, you know, meaningful purpose is so critical. So I just want to thank Rain for bringing that up, and maybe other people have examples to talk about.
Tirza, I see you put something in the chat box. Very cool. Again, do you want to speak up, Tirza? Says they have, they're delivering happy hour snacks. They're partnering with Memory Care to make masks. Yeah, most of the masks and cloth masks and stuff they have are being made by the elders that live there. That's awesome. Oh, she has no audio. Okay. So that's very cool. Yeah, I think this actually, we've touched on this a couple times over the course of time. I think it still is a challenge to get out of that mindset of let's just be busy and entertain to let's meaningfully engage one another together. How do we as a community come together around this and not us doing for? It's so easy to get into that mindset of doing for. Some of the elders, Michelle says, some of the elders we care partner with have been sewing masks and gowns. Rosie the Riveter again. Okay. Michelle, anything else you want to add to that? I love that.
Well, I think it's in the nature of the generation we serve to get in there and to do and serve and be a valuable part. And so many elders are taking their natural talents and
oh no, we just lost your audio.
Uh-oh.
There you are.
Okay. Got her. And so the idea is we're care partnering, and elders are praying with team members who might be afraid. Elders are leading so much discussion. Elders are reassuring team members, reassuring their own families. So much has changed in a month with technology, and elders are learning, but they're doing many things that they were very savvy via technology, like teaching grandchildren how to sew and things like that. So it's really cool to see the talents of elders being expressed through technology and outlets for innovation, where elders are teaching us once again in such a diverse way, and it's happened so fast. And it's just been so exciting to see all of that come together as swiftly as it has. And I think it's brought us a lot closer together. We were close before, but my goodness, we're so much closer now. The gardening, the elders are gardening for children who don't have food in Gulfport, Mississippi. That is why they're gardening, because they said, we have food, but there's children out there that don't have food. So they are very aggressively gardening right now just to serve other people in the community, which is amazing. So it's really cool to see, just sometimes if we just back out of the way, things happen like this. And it's just been really cool to see.
So that kind of gets us back to a conversation we had, which is, have you asked the elders what they want to contribute? What have you asked the elders, what can you do? We need your help. What can you do? Yeah. Very cool. I love the gardening. I love the gardening. That's a great idea. That is a great idea.
I don't know if Jack is on this week.
I haven't seen him.
Okay, because he said something a couple weeks ago that, you know, it's not elders and staff. It's we are all human beings going through this together. And I just thought, gosh, I think about that so much, what he said.
Yep. So Ryan, tell us about the Signature Healthcare of South Pittsburgh.
All right, I had to find my unmute button there. So yeah, in South Pittsburgh, their chaplain brought his tiller to the home, and they have a great big outdoor area. And so the elders were out there tilling the ground up and getting it ready to plant. And they were so excited about it. And they put it on Facebook, and I just love the pics because you can just see how much they love not only, you know, being outside, and that's normal in a lot of our homes. I mean, they're finding purpose everywhere. So it's just with those new distance things that are going on, they find it challenging, but they always find a way to make it happen. And so I love seeing those pictures.
Very nice. Very nice. Shauna says, Shauna, do you want to talk, or you want me to just read what you had, what you put in there?
Yeah, so we just have some of our elders are writing some history students in grade 10, and they're talking about times in their life that they've had to change because of things that are going on in society. So we've had some of our elders share times where they volunteered in hospitals with polio patients, and they had to make sure they kept their distance. And so it's really interesting to see the knowledge that they have to share, and they've experienced so much. And the students are excited to write and ask questions and learn more about them. And the elders enjoy sharing it with the students as well. So it just started, and it's starting to really boom. So we're excited to see where it takes us.
Oh my gosh. And with so many kids homeschooling right now, the stories elders could share about being stuck at home and how did they keep themselves busy and occupied and not driving their mom crazy. And I bet there's some really good stories out there. Oh, Jenny, were you willing to share what you just posted, what you just put in there?
Yeah, we've long partnered with a local high school, and so they were wanting to video chat with residents or send messages back and forth because they don't want to write to be like, they don't want to physically write to be a pen pal. So the video thing is working out really well. But my guidance to them was to allow this to be an experience for the elder to give care. And so some of their questions are very deep, and other ones are really surface, like I have 3 tomatoes, what should I make for dinner? But it could be anything, and that's been really fun to go back and forth.
Very fun, very fun. Yeah, I think you were the one that said like they had like 10 weeks of things they were doing and the superhero cleaning up the gardens, and yeah, very cool. Star, I think you had something you wanted to share.
Totally new subject, but this week I had our director of nurses call me and say, Star, I need you to come and talk to these 2 ladies, because these ladies have roomed together at least twice before, and it's always ended not so great. But they remain friends and they get together. They have now decided that it is best for them to room together because they're worried that they'll get a roommate that has something that could infect them. So if they room together, they feel they're safe. And so we spent a lot of time talking and exploring, okay, well, these are the areas where you had problems before. We've got to figure out a way to make that work, and you have to come to agreements. And I just thought it was really interesting that this alliance is formed because of this virus.
Nice, nice. And you had some activity ideas you guys were all playing around with too. Do you want to share those?
Well, I've got Denise here from the activities. Diana, I'm sorry. I got stuck in the D's, but it's Diana. And yeah, she's kind of jumped off of the status quo question that Dr. Bill asked a couple of weeks ago, and it inspired her. So I'll let her talk a little bit.
Okay. So it's inspired us to not only look at things that are meaningful to the residents, but just to do things a little differently. See if they work, okay? Just challenge ourselves. The other day, we actually did giant crossword out in front of the building outside with our 6 feet distance. You know, we've been shaking up our bingo games, where it's not just the regular bingo. We've been having residents make up games, you know, whether it's doing Christmas trees, whether it's doing 3-layer cakes, whatever. So we've been putting in a lot of changes and seeing what works. For our room visits, we're doing a lot of room visits right now, but we're even trying to change that up a little bit and bring the resident outside. You know, incorporating stretching and exercises into the rooms, you know, creating playlists, having the resident listen to their favorite song, and then talking about it and the meaning to them. You know, we're seeing what our residents have in common so that we can go ahead and share that with everyone. So there's a lot of things that we're just trying to do a little bit differently right now. You know, the isolation, or it's not really isolation, but our distancing, it's becoming the norm now. We have some residents that, of course, we have to keep reminding, you know, to keep the distance, but people are actually getting used to this. And, you know, so we're kind of feeling pretty good about it. And we're just going to keep going, and we're going to keep looking for new things. That's great. And we have our residents are eating animals. You know, in the beginning, it was just like room visits. Now we're centering the animals for activities and drawing people out, and maybe even outside and participating, you know, playing with the dog, or, you know, the rabbit, you know, the birds on their shoulders. So we're trying to keep everyone entertained.
Very cool. Thank you. And thank you for thinking out of the box. Great ideas. You're getting some thumbs up in the box here. The giant crossword puzzle's a hit. I like that. And Brad, I think you had something that you came up with the elders. Do you want to share?
Sure, yeah, I'll see. I guess my microphone's working. I couldn't get my camera to work. Yeah, we had, we have aquariums, but because the residents aren't, or the folks in our communities aren't able to come to the aquariums, we decided we'd take the aquariums to them. So we looked around and we found what I think is a great deal. I don't have interest in Walmart, nor am I a stockholder, but we did, through Walmart, for about $8 each, got these really cool 1-gallon aquariums. They have lids, so that's not an issue. And they have multicolor LED lights in them, so you can set it on whatever whatever the folks' favorite color is, or you can have it kind of cycling through the colors. And so then what we did is equipped each room with one. And so in the case of folks who are appropriate for sensory, it's a good sensory experience, and for folks who can benefit from having that something to nurture, it gives them that opportunity to do that too. So we're excited about that. When we had them finished, we were so kind of excited about it, we're ordering more. So and again, I mean, I got to say too, while I'm on here, I can't hardly write the great ideas down fast enough. I was just talking to one of my colleagues here. She came in. This is the first I joined this call. I'm not sure how long you've been doing it, but I am really glad I did. And I hope to be able to continue on Fridays at 12:30. So thanks for all the great ideas, and we really appreciate all the help.
Oh my gosh. I can't figure out. Now, how did you get the fish? This is where I'm at. It's like, how did they ship the fish?
Actually, I had called, there's a local pet store here, and they're still open. I mean, I don't know necessarily that fish replacement's essential, so I'm not sure kind of under what caveat they're still able to do that, but it's just a local little hometown store. And he had, actually what I got, because the bowls are only a gallon, he had bigger goldfish, but feeder fish worked really well in this case because they're a good size for the bowl. And the other thing that kind of came as a surprise is because the bowl is bowl shaped, it magnifies the fish. So it actually looks bigger than it is, which was kind of an unexpected surprise. But I did ask him while I was there if he's still able to get fish shipments. And he said, yeah, that the pet stores are getting shipments kind of as usual. So I was a little surprised by that, but I was glad for it because we needed fish and he had fish.
Very good. Very good. Well, we'll give you some, thank you for sharing, Brad. Appreciate that. And I want to let you know that when I send out the chat or when I send out the follow-up email, you'll get a link that'll connect you up with all the past calls, as well as the chat logs from all the calls. So you can dig as deep as you want to or as much as you have time for.
Great, Denise. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Laura, you had something really interesting that you had posted in the chat. I don't know if you want to say anything.
Laura Beck?
Yeah, Laura Beck.
Okay. Which interesting thing, the fact that we send out the recordings and the chat logs for people who don't want to take notes?
No, the thing before that.
Oh, okay. I just want to put something out there that I absolutely love the conversations that we're having about equalizing the conversation, that we're all human beings, you know, having an experience together, regardless of whether we identify as an elder. And by our definition, that's someone who, by virtue of life experience, is here to teach us how to live. I still think there's value in doing what Denise did and saying, hey, I want to hear some ideas from the elders, or if they identify as residents, from the residents. Reason being is we know how easy it is to slip into old ways, and because we're helping people and we're caring people in this field, we tend to start to take over and wanting to come up with solutions and forgetting that, just like, you know, Michelle was pointing out, and several of the other people on the call have pointed out as well, that some incredible wisdom and a sense of community is offered by the elders as well. And because we teach empowerment, and because we emphasize the empowerment, you know, we have those t-shirts, right? Elders rule. I know that sounds like a call out based on, you know, a certain way to identify oneself, but it's about the empowerment that we teach, I feel, when we remind each other how important it is to keep going to them for the wisdom and the advice. And yes, we all have great advice and we all have great ideas. And I don't want to make it sound like I think one is better than the other. I just think it's easy for something, you know, for the elders' wisdom to get lost in the shuffle, just by the nature of the giving community that I think in general we are. I hope that makes sense.
It does. It does. Okay. You know, the other thing that occurred to me was that one of the things that Bill has said over the years is that not all of us as we age believe we actually have wisdom to share. So if you're kind of hitting a wall, what else could you ask besides, you know, can you share your wisdom about? What else would you say? Because that word may be putting some people off, and I don't know what other words you would substitute there.
Probably advice.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Your ideas.
Life experiences. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. Very cool. Very cool. And Hope, you said something really cool about houseplants. I don't know if you want to jump on and talk.
I was just over here typing away too, going back on what Laura said, because that was amazing. No, houseplants, you know, as you can see, I have houseplants in my house. I mean, in every room I have houseplants. They sometimes are more than the furniture I have in the room, which makes my life feel like I'm waking up in a little mini jungle and kind of sets the tone for the day. But yeah, I think that I go into some communities and there's, you know, we need to bring that life in. And for individuals that can't get out, if it's, you know, our weather hasn't been ideal here in Denver, and you know, how can we bring nature in? I find nature so healing. And I think it just helps ground us, and it purifies the air. And there's science out there to say, even if we talk positively to our plants, that they grow better. And that is the same with us as human beings. So I think it just sets the tone of what we want to create.
Absolutely.
I do love plants. But I wanted to touch on Laura's comment too, as far as just this sense of, you know, asking questions. What a beautiful world it would be if we shifted that I know best and I have the knowledge to the curiosity of others, you know, and what that would open, not only in our communities, but in our external community as well, or the external community. I think we all have entrapments of social media, et cetera, of kind of selling ourselves and who we are and what we have to provide. And it's exhausting. It's like we have all these people around us that can answer some of the questions that we're beating our heads, you know, trying to find the answers. So I think that moment of curiosity is so important.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a great skill to have as a leader who's trying to change the culture of care. Be very curious. It's a very good thing. I love it. And then I saw some like, do we do the fish? Do we do the plants? They like both ideas. It's like, what if you ask the elders, would you like something to care for? And what would you like? And see what you come up with. That could be really kind of an interesting conversation. I'm looking to see, there was something else I saw in here. Oh, the Montessori station. So Tirza, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, said, I love the portable fish tank. We're finding that a lot of the changes we are making, we will likely make permanent. Go for it, love it. For example, in our memory care, we're adopting Montessori stations in small groups so we can maintain social distancing. And it's actually a better practice in general. So I love that. I love that. Small is better. That's a wonderful lesson to carry forward. I like that. And then in terms of what else could you ask besides what's your wisdom? Can you help me? Might be a really good question to ask. Or what are your thoughts on this? Or what's your take on this? Curiosity. Lots of people are commenting on what you had to say. My cat does a great curious face. That's for my teammate, Chris. I love it. Oh my gosh. So Joan asked, do you have to be registered for these discussions to access the ideas shared after? Oh, no. It's publicly accessible and you guys can share the links to everything as widely as you want. Please get it out. And I saw Mary Kay, you joined us again this week, and I wanted to see, Mary Kay, if you had anything you wanted to say.
Well, I just want to say hi and thank you for having me again. I was having computer problems, etc. So that's why I wasn't on, and I missed you all. I'm glad to be able to be with you today, and I just wanted to let everybody know that elders can be caregivers also, as I have. I live about 30 seconds away from my daughter and her Junebug. And so Junebug is always bringing stuff over for me to repair. And even Nicole sent a pair of socks that I had made for her or knitted for her a long time ago to repair. And I was talking to some friends on the phone, and behold, she needs a purple scarf for a family reunion. So I'm busy knitting socks, crocheting napkins, mending Junebugs, purses, and whatever she has. And so I feel needed, I feel wanted. And as I was a caregiver to my mother for 15 years, I feel like I am still caregiving for my family. And that makes me very happy. So I just wanted to share that with everybody and let everybody know that we're in this together and we're going to see it through and we'll be all right. And Mother's Day, you know, if you can't be with your mother, you can always pray for her. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mary Kay. I'm glad you could join us.
Nice seeing all of you again.
Good to see you. I love that. I love that. Hands are being raised for you. I like that. Thank you. Oh, okay. Isabel's got a request in the thing. She said that several people have been commenting that they've been reading her book. Yay. And she said, can you submit an Amazon review? I love it.
Oh, I was gonna say it was at seniors. It was like my friends and their parents had read my book, And so, you know, they were really supportive. And during this time, their kids are like, stay home, don't leave home, you know, and they're getting everything for them. So I feel like they're feeling kind of stir crazy. And so when you know, they would text me and say, I love it. And so I asked them, would you be willing to help me, support me? And if you need, I can walk you through it. So one of my husband's uncle, who's in his late 80s, he wrote probably like a 2-page review that wouldn't be accepted on Amazon. And so I said, I think it's too long. But what he ended up doing is he used to work at the Library of Congress. So he submitted it there instead, and they accepted it. So now it's cataloged at the Library of Congress. So just like these little things that I think are just, you know, my book's not even intended for them. I mean, it's written for a younger crowd. It's written for the millennials and Gen Xers. But I could tell that they were very excited to take part. And even I just set up like a date with them, a phone date, to be able to walk them through. And so it was really fun. So.
Very nice. Very nice. Wow. To have your review at the Library of Congress, that's pretty important. I love it. I love it. I love it. Carmen, you have a story to share.
Yeah. Hey, Laura Beck, thanks for making me think deeper about this. I've actually thought a lot about it. I got to be a co-author in a book that we called Soften the Assessment Process. And the E in soften, we used it as a mnemonic device. The E stands for equalize everyone. And what I usually say about it, it just really has me thinking, everybody. What I usually say is, you know, a sad example came out of Katrina, the hurricane in 2005. At our big Pioneer Network conferences, we would hear people talk about it, and they actually said we were no longer residents and staff, we were people fighting for our lives. And that's where it got me thinking, sadly, in a typical institution, it is residents and staff, and it is us versus them. And when I get on these calls, you guys, we got to realize what we all are talking about is different than many institutions, okay? Our thinking, our knowledge, and sadly, I do believe that exists in many places, as you know. At one point, somewhere in my career too, I called it, we have to shift from what we think is professional control to actually supporting the person, right? Like we have this misnomer that we get to take over, like you've said, Laura. And so then examples that I've run into in my career, when the people who work in a building and the people who live in a building plan a baby shower, guess what? They're friends of the person having a baby. They're not residents and staff, you know? And if you have a choir, you're members of the choir, you're not residents and staff. If you have a talent show, and then, you know, we can't do it right now, but I think the simple act of dining together is an example of equalizing. We're all people who eat. And look at our history. I remember, I wish I had a picture, but I remember as a surveyor in the 90s, everybody, I actually saw a sign on the wall that actually said, staff may not eat with residents in the dining room. And it made me cry as a surveyor. How dare we think we can't eat together? You know, we trust people in the bathroom. We trust people in the shower. How dare we say you can't eat together, you know? So, I have to tell you a sad story of what is going on in these very institutional institutions. So I'm working with an activity director right now. She actually had COVID already, and she's back to work, imagine. And she feels shunned by people. They walk away from her. They pull up their masks. Now, I don't blame them. No one's blaming anybody for anything, but just imagine how hard this is on every side. And she went into residents' rooms, and you know what they said? First of all, they say, "Who are you?" Because of all the PPE, you don't even know who people are, like we said. And then they said, "Jess, it's you. We've been worried about you." And then they said, "Nobody comes to talk to us. They drop off the food. They don't even say hi, and they don't even say, 'How are you?' They don't treat us like people." And so that's what's going on, you guys. Look how blessed we are to know about Eden and support each other. And not have that happening. So thank you all for not letting that happen.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're down to our last minute. Jill, you had something you wanted to share?
I did. I just wanted to invite you all to, we're doing 2 Facebook Live shows next week. This is like how we're trying to make a difference in the world right now. It's through these calls and through these Facebook Live shows. And so next week, we're going to be focusing on all of the challenges with recruiting new people to work in your communities. And I know when people test positive, they have to be out. And so staffing is more of a challenge than ever. And so Ecligo Workforce Solutions will be joining us. Really excited about that on Monday. And then Thursday, we have a brand new value-added partner called Immediate. And what Immediate does is they give organizations the opportunity to have your team members get paid after they work their shift, rather than waiting 2 weeks to get their paycheck, because now more than ever, people need money. And so, and they've got it doesn't cost the organization anything. It's a very small fee for team members. And during this pandemic, there's no fees at all to do it. So I encourage you to come join. It's to help team members have more financial well-being during this time. So please join us if you can. Thanks.
All right. There we go. So we are at the bottom of the hour. Thank you guys so much. Yay. We will see you next week when we'll pick up where we left off and see where we go from there. But awesome, awesome time together. Thank you all so much. Take care, please, of yourselves while you're taking care of others. I look forward to seeing your faces next week. Hi, Carrie. Yay.